Hochstetten-Dhaun is an Ortsgemeinde, a municipality belonging to a Verbandsgemeinde, a kind of collective municipality, in the Bad Kreuznach district in Rhineland-Palatinate, Germany. It belongs to the Verbandsgemeinde of Kirn-Land, whose seat is in the town of Kirn, although this lies outside the Verbandsgemeinde. Hochstetten-Dhaun is a state-recognized recreational community. Geography. Location. Hochstetten-Dhaun lies in the Nahe Valley between the Hunsrück to the north and the Palatinate to the south. By both land area and population, Hochstetten-Dhaun is the second biggest Ortsgemeinde in Kirn-Land. Neighboring municipalities. Clockwise from the north, Hochstetten-Dhaun's neighbors of the municipalities of Brauweiler, Simmental, Merxheim and Meckenbach, the town of Kirn and the municipalities of Oberhausen, Bei Kirn and Heinzenberg, all of which likewise lie within the Bad Kreuznach district. Constituent communities. Hochstetten-Dhaun's Ortsteile Hochstetten with the outlying hamlets and homesteads of Karlshof, Street, Johannesburg, Waldeck and Waldhof, Hochstetten, which until the late 18th century formed a single unit together with Hochstetten and Schloss Dhaun, a castle and a hamlet, with the outlying homestead of Heinzenberg Gesellschaftsmühle. History. The great many barrows within Hochstetten-Dhaun's limits bear witness to settlers in the area even in prehistoric times. About 1100, Hochstetten had its first documentary mention in a document from the Archbishopric of Mainz to Disibodenberg Abbey, which named Ludovicus de Hochstetten, who donated holdings to the abbey that he owned in Merxheim. The name prefix Hoch, seen in both Hochstetten and Hochstetten, has nothing to do with those constituent communities' geographical locations, for both Hochstetten and Hochstetten lie on rather low land down near the river Nahe. Far likelier is that the name is a corruption of what would be rendered Hofstadt in modern German, something with a perfectly transparent meaning, namely, a state place. Clearly, this would describe a place where a landowner once held an estate. Nowadays, the two names Hochstetten and Hochstetten are pronounced alike, meaning that a distinction must be made in speech between them. They did, however, once have official names that allowed easy distinction between the two. Hochstetten on the Nahe's left bank was known as Naxt Hochstetten, whereas Hochstetten over on the right bank was known as Oberhochstetten. These usages lasted centuries, and referred to the two centers' positions relative to Castle Dhaun. Naxt Hochstetten lay nearer the castle, while Oberhochstetten lay beyond it, across the river. Both villages were part of the Waldgravial Rheingravial Amt of Dhaun, and formed the court district Schultheiserei of Hochstetten. After the so-called Dhaun feud between Waldgrave Johann von Dhaun and Prince Archbishop-elect Baldwin of Trier had ended in defeat for the former, he had to cede his village in 1342 to the electorate of Trier, whereupon Baldwin then engulfed the Waldgraves with the very holding that they had just forsaken, thus ensuring the Waldgraves' allegiance to the former foe. The Counts of Veldenz, too, had certain landholds and rights that they had granted to vassals. In 1426, the vote Johann von Simmern held a half-share in the village and courted Oberhochstetten as a fief from the Waldgraves of Dhaun. In 1515, the Waldgravial Amt of Dhaun was made up of the castle, the village and the vote of Simmern and to Dhaun. The villages of Naxt Hochstetten and Oberhochstetten and the Dhaun shares of Kirn, Bergen, Raunen and Hausen. In 1794, during the War of the First Coalition, French revolutionary troops overran and occupied the German lands on the Rhine's left bank, whereafter, in 1798, the region was administratively reorganized by the Directory according to the French revolutionary model. The Nahe formed the boundary between two departments. The The villages of Next, Hochstetten and Dhaun were grouped into the Mairie of Kirn, the Canton of Kirn, the Arrondissement of Simon and the Department of Rhine-Moselle, whereas Oberhochstetten, whose name was at this time changed to Hochstetten, belonged to the Mairie of Merxheim, the Canton of Meisenheim, the Arrondissement of Birkenfeld and the Department of Saar. The Protestant parish of St. Johannesburg lost its autonomy and was made subject to the parish of Meckenbach. Once French rule had ended in the Rhineland in 1814, the Congress of Vienna awarded the region to the Kingdom of Prussia, which took possession of it in April 1815. The municipalities of Hochstetten and Dhaun passed in 1816 to the Burgermeisterei of Kirn in the Kreuznach district in the Regierungsbezirk of Koblenz. The area south of the Nahe was ceded in 1816 to the Landgraves of Hesse-Homburg. Hochstetten became part of the Oberum of Meisenheim, which existed until 1866, then being absorbed into the Prussian Meisenheim district. Hochstetten belonged to the Burgermeisterei of Medisheim. The Meisenheim district was merged into the Kreuznach district in 1932, thus ending the division of the three municipalities of Dhaun, Hochstetten and Hochstetten into different districts. After the Amt of Medisheim was dissolved in 1940, Hochstetten likewise passed to the Amt of Kirn-Land, out of which today's Verbandsgemeinde of Kirn-Land was formed in 1968. Today's Ortsgemeinde of Hochstetten-Dhaun arose within the framework of municipal restructuring and administrative reform through a voluntary merger of the hitherto three self-administering municipalities of Dhaun, Hochstetten and Hochstetten bei Kirn on 7 June 1969. Religion. As at 30 September 2013, there are 1,655 full-time residents in Hochstetten-Dhaun, and of those, 1,062 are evangelical, 314 are Catholic, 1 is Greek Orthodox, 1 is Lutheran, 1 is Russian Orthodox, 37 belong to other religious groups and 239 either have no religion or will not reveal the religious affiliation. Politics. Municipal Council. The council is made up of 16 council members, who are elected by proportional representation at the municipal election held on 7 June 2009, and the honorary mayor as chairman. The municipal election held on 7 June 2009 yielded the following results. Mayor Hochstetten-Dhaun's mayor is Thomas Bauer, and his deputies are Hans-Helmut Dobel, Hiri Berschall and Nicole Demand. As a polycentric municipality, 2 of the centers each have their own heads. In Hochstetten this is Karl Friedrich Schmidt, and in Schloss Dhaun, Wolfgang Klein. Coat of arms. The German blazon reads, Schild gespalten vorn in Grun zwei Goldene Gekreuzte Hammer, hinten in Gold ein roter Blabberwetter und Gesungterlo. The municipality's arms might in English heraldic language be described thus: a pale Werter hammer and pick basalt or an lion rampant gules armed and langed azure. The charge on the dexter side, the hammer and pick, is the mark of the stone industry in the municipality. The charge on the sinister side, the lion, is a reference to the village's former allegiance to the Waldgraviate Rheingraviate. Before their dissolution on 6 June 1969, the former municipalities of Dhaun, Hochstetten and Hochstetten bei Kirn bore their own arms. The council of the newly formed municipality of Hochstetten-Dhaun decided on 8 August 1969 to bear Hochstetten's former arms as the new municipality's heraldic emblem. At a Hochstetten council meeting on 6 July 1964, council had adopted the design that had been put forth by the graphic artist Brust from Kern-Sulzbach. The Ministry of the Interior in Mainz had then granted approval for Hochstetten to bear its own arms on 15 February 1965. The approval for Hochstetten-Dhaun to bear these same arms was granted on 2 October 1969. The municipal banner also bears this coat of arms in the center. Culture and sightseeing. Buildings. The following are listed buildings or sites in Rhineland-Palatinate's Directory of Cultural Monuments. Hochstetten Evangelical Church, Kirchstrasse 3 sandstone block building, Rundbogen framing, marked 1866-1867. At Hauptstrasse 39 Renaissance portal with skylight, about 1600. At Hauptstrasse 41 Renaissance portal, marked 1567. Hochstetten Evangelical Church, Brunnengasse, sandstone block building, 1864. Schloss Dhaun Evangelical Church, Kerner Strasse 12 former Kommetelbring House, essentially Baroque 18th century, given classicist makeover in the early 19th century. Castle, mentioned in 1215 as a castle, expanded in 1729 into a residential castle, torn down in 1804 and years that followed. Conversion of Outer Bailey into an English garden, Inner Ward complex, ruin of St. George's Chapel, Upper Gateway, North Wing, reconstructed and altered Great Hall, 2 gun turrets, on the ward wall and heraldic lion, 18th century. Imhan, village fountain, hewn stone, 17th or 18th century. Imhan 1 Baroque house with single roof ridge, partly slated, 18th century. Imhan 17 late Baroque timber frame bungalow, marked 1776. Kerner Strasse, communal bakehouse, possibly from the latter half of the 19th century. Kerner Strasse 2 Baroque building with half-hip roof, marked 1731, set at a corner across from the castle gateway. Neuweg 13 former Amtshaus Baroque building with mansard roof, 1738. St. Johannesburg Street, Johannesburg. Evangelical Parish Church, formerly St. John the Baptist's Collegiate Church, Gothic Eyeless Church, 1318, Tower 1465, Choir 1595, Old Churchyard Wall with Gateway Arch. Village Core Street, Johannesburg 11, 13 among others, former Collegiate Church with Churchyard, former Protestant Rectory from 1743, Village Inn and farmhouse across the street, essentially Baroque as well as an estate complex along the street. No. 11. Abutting the churchyard, in the middle of the street, well, bakehouse, possibly from the latter half of the 19th century, on Christstrasse 10 north of the church, bakehouse, possibly from the latter half of the 19th century. St. Johannesburg 13 former evangelical rectory, Baroque solid building in style of house with single roof ridge, marked 1743. More about the castle. Schloss Dhaun is a castle ruin in the Hunsrück within Hochstetten-Dhaun's municipal limits. The castle and the light-named constituent community lie high above the Kellenbach Valley. It is said to be the biggest complex of its kind in the Nahe Valley, built in the 12th century as a defensive fortification by the Counts of the Nafegau. It had its first documentary mention in 1215 as Castrum de Dune and was then a fief of St. Maximin's Abbey in Trier. In the Middle Ages, the complex protected the territory held by the Waldgraves, who were the Nafegau Counts' successors. In 1340, during the so-called Dawn feud, the castle was besieged by Prince Archbishop-Elector of Trier Baldwin's troops. Baldwin was at odds with the lord of the castle, Johann I of Daun, over the Schmidberg. The Prince-Archbishop-Elector prevailed in the siege, and Johann eventually had to grant him the unhindered use of the castle in times of war or feud. In connection with the Dhaun feud, a whole ring of castles sprang up, among them Castle Brunkenstein, Castle Rothenburg, Castle Martenstein, the siege position of Geisley and the castle on the Johannesburg. Johann.It died in 1350 without a male heir, and therefore the complex passed to his nephew, Rhinegrave Johann II of Stein, Johann's sister Hedwig's son. With him began the long era of the Waldgraves and Rhinegraves of Dhaun. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the castle was further expanded and fortified. It is from that time that the Barbican at the Upper Bailey comes. This was built in 1526. The three-level network of underground passageways and rooms was also built in these centuries. The passageways emerge from the ground at an exit at the foot of the castle, into its neck ditch. Finished in 1729 was the remodeling of the castle, such as it had become by then, into a residential castle, a Schloss, under Waldegrave and Rhinegrave Karl von Dhaun and his wife Louise, born Countess of Nassau-Saarbrücken. The palace in the west was converted into a palatial dwelling, and onto its south side was built a wing several floors tall, together with a somewhat older building to the north. The whole complex thereby took on a horseshoe-shaped footprint. The land around the Upper Bailey became the Schloss Garden with a carriage house. Count Karl did not, however, get much time to enjoy his converted castle home, for only 4 years after work was finished, he died in 1733. 1 year later, the Schloss was threatened with destruction during the War of the Polish Succession, a fate then already suffered by the neighboring castle Kierberg. Count Karl's widow, though, somehow managed to keep this from happening. In 1794, French revolutionary troops conquered the Nahe region and thereby also Schloss Dhaun. It was taken into state ownership and its remnants were auctioned in 1804 with a view to carting the stone off for other purposes. The buyer, who paid 1,200 francs for it, was Andreas van Rickham, a high official in the French administration, the sous-préfet in the arrondissement of Simon. He had all usable parts of the building complex taken to the Kausenberg in Bad Kreuznach. An end was put to the ruins' inexorable crumbling only in the 19th century when in 1850 a physician from Trier acquired part of the complex and began with work to reinstate some of the castle's former glory, but with a somewhat romanticized vision of what a castle should look like, which had rather little to do with the former medieval reality. It is from this time that the building elements at the castle's entrance gate date. Further changes in ownership followed until at the turn of the 20th century, a manufacturer from Kirn named Simon acquired Schloss Dhaun and undertook various new building projects and renovations on the Upper Bailey. It was he who had the new Great Hall on the ruin of the north wing, using parts of the building that still stood. The old entrance and the 16th century builder's family coat of arms can still be made out. The Simons also acquired the Prometheus figure, created by the sculptor from Kreuznach Robert Kauer the Elder in Rome in 1888. In 1954, the Schloss was transferred to the Zweckverbandsschloss Dhaun, comprising the town of Kirn, the then Amt of Kirn-Land and the Bad Kreuznach district. It still owns the Schloss today, preserved at this medieval castle complex now in the area of the Upper Bailey ruins of St. George's Chapel, consecrated in 1661, and the kitchen building as well as 2 bastions and the girding wall with defensive towers and a gatehouse. In the west wing, the former palace, the entrance portal is preserved. The building was reconstructed by the Zweckverband, and since 1957 it has housed the Heimvolkshochschule, a training center for youths and adults whose scholastic head for many years was the historian Werner Vogt. Also housed at the Schloss since 1991 has been the Communal Academy Rhineland-Pfalz, also an educational institution. At the Lower Bailey, the Bad Kreuznach district maintains at the site of the Watchtower a youth training center, and the Great Hall is available for celebrations. Clubs. The following clubs are active in Hochstetten-Dhaun and Gelver in 1974. E.V. Angling Club, Evangelische Frauenhilfe, Evangelical Women's Aid. For the Verein Freiwillig Feuerwehr, Volunteer Fire Brigade Promotional Association. For the Verein Kindergarten, Kindergarten Promotional Association. For the Verein Stiftkirche St. Johannesburg, E.V. St. John the Baptist's Collegiate Church Promotional Association. Freiwilligemeinschaft, Free Voters Association. Heimvolkshochschule Schloss Dhaun E.V. Folk High School. Jagdhornbläser Gruppe Holberg Kern, Hunting Hornblowers Group. Jugendgruppe Hochstetten E.V. Hammer Youth Group. Kirchenchor St. Johannesburg, Church Choir. Landfrauenverein Hochstetten, Country Women's Club. MGV Hochstadt in 1900, Men's Singing Club. Musik und Unterhaltungsverein 1951 Hochstetten E.V. Music and Conversation Club. Musikverein Schloss Dhaun, Music Club. Seifenkisten Club, Soapbox Club. Senioren 55 plus, Seniors Club. Spielvereinigung Hochstetten 1916, Sporting Union. Turnverein 07 Hochstetten E.V. Gymnastic Club. TV Schloss Dhaun, Gymnastic Club. VDK Ortsverband, Social Advocacy Group Local Chapter. Wanderfrauen, Women's Hiking Club. Economy and infrastructure. Transport running through Hochstetten-Dhaun is Bundesstraße 41, off which branches Bundesstraße 421 just northeast of the municipality at Simmertal. Bundesstraße 41 thence leads westwards to Bad Sobenheim, Bad Kreuznach and eventually Ingelheim am Rhein. At Bad Kreuznach is an interchange onto Autobahn A61, while Autobahn A60, running into Mainz, can be reached through another interchange at Ingelheim. Southwest of Hochstetten-Dhaun, Bundesstraße 41 leads to Ida Oberstein, Birkenfeld, Neufelden and Sankt Wendel, serving Hochstetten-Dhaun's constituent community of Hochstetten is a railway station on the NAHE Valley Railway.